By the time the fisherman drags my body from the depths, I will have been dead for exactly 48 hours, 10 minutes, and 15 seconds. 24 hours since the authorities scribbled my name onto the ever-growing list of the missing. 19 hours since Dahlia whispered to our biology teacher that my tent was empty, my sleeping bag untouched. That I never came back from the party we snuck off to, weaving through the forest like ghosts, every twig snapping beneath our feet a reminder that we were breaking the rules. The air had smelled of pine, salt, and something else. Something thick, something electric. The moon, a cruel sickle in the night sky, watched us like an unblinking eye. Dahlia's fingers clutched mine, slick with sweat and urgency, as we wove past the tents. We didn't let go until we reached the lake, where a muted speaker whispered Billie Eilish's voice over the black, rippling water. A beer was thrust into my hand, the can slick with condensation, as if it too trembled. The lake yawned before us, a chasm of liquid shadow, blurring the boundary between water and void. That was what unsettled me most. I couldn't tell where the lake ended, and the darkness began. The first news report is very formal. Promising high school student disappears after mysterious midnight swim. Then, the search begins. Police officers and volunteers fill the area, their flashlights cutting through the dark forest. Search dogs sniff the ground, trying to find any trace of me. A helicopter roars above, its spinning blades slicing through the silence like a sharp knife. Hours pass, and night begins to fall, but the forest refuses to give up its secrets easily. The police ask their usual questions. When did she go missing? What was she wearing? Was she drinking? Was she depressed? Did she want to hurt herself? No, and no. I was happy. I was dancing under the moon. I was alive. But when a fisherman finally finds me, far from where I disappeared, the story changes. The autopsy tells the truth that can't be ignored. A deep bruise on my head, marks on my neck like invisible hands pressing into my skin, and worst of all, water in my lungs. That means I was still breathing when the dark water pulled me under. My classmates are questioned one by one. Dahlia says she left early and that I stayed behind with her twin brother, Lucian, the boy who has liked me since middle school. Lucian looks nervous, his voice uneasy. He says we hardly spoke that night, but others remember differently. They recall us slipping away into the dark. They remember his fingers resting on my wrist a little too long. When investigators examine my clothes, they find tiny pieces of his skin, hidden in the fabric like secrets that refuse to stay buried. Lucian insists he did nothing wrong. Maybe because telling the truth would ruin him. Maybe because the next question would be one he can't answer. The truth is, Lucian isn't completely lying. We didn't talk much that night. His lips were too busy on mine. But I was afraid of what people might think. So, as always, I pushed him away. He left the party, hurt. Serafina claims she heard Dahlia and me arguing that night, just before Dahlia returned to the campsite. Of course, she would say that, because what else would two girls argue about if not a boy? Serafina even claims that Dahlia pushed me, though Dahlia denies it vehemently. She denies discussing Lucian at all, insisting that it was about something else, something that wouldn't come to light until much later, when our biology teacher became a suspect. Serafina is that she's always been a shadow, the kind of girl whose name teachers forget after 2 weeks of spring break. So when she finally gets the chance to talk to the police and be part of the investigation, she jumps at it. Unfortunately, Serafina isn't much help to the investigators. She leaves the party around 2 a.m., only 40 minutes before I die, leaving me alone with a group of males who've brought along some tranquilizers. Sitting next to them seemed like being locked in a fever dream where Jacques Derrida lectures quantum mechanics at a frat party. At some point, I decided it was time to head back. One of the guys casually asked if I needed someone to walk with me, and I said yes, but no one moved. I glanced back, the campsite faintly visible through the cold, white light filtering through the pines. It was only a few meters away, just beyond the trees. I'd walked this path for days, never once feeling threatened by the shadows in the bushes. But tonight, that sinking feeling in my stomach wouldn't go away. Still, I refused to be that girl. The one who got scared at every creak in the dark. The one who needed someone to hold her hand for a few steps. So I stood up and said I'd walk alone. Instead of sticking to the dark trail, though, I decided to take a small detour along the riverbank. A bit longer, a bit lighter, and hopefully a bit safer. One of the guys told me to text him when I made it to my tent, but when I didn't, no one even noticed. 20 days after my body is found, suspicion slithers elsewhere. Xavier, a classmate, claims he searched for our biology teacher that night, only to find his tent eerily vacant. Soon the teacher's facade crumbles, his words tangled in contradictions. He summons Dahlia into his office, his voice low, his gaze flickering. Insists his proposal to her before the trip was a joke. A misunderstanding. He was merely offering tutoring, he says. Nothing more. And then Serafina steps forward one last time. Says she was with him that night. Says they went to the boathouse. Swears that nothing happened. That he was just there for her. The teacher is dismissed, but my case is left untouched. The suspicions around Dahlia and Lucian dissolve like mist beneath the morning sun. My case remains unsolved, and eventually people begin to accept the idea that it was just a tragic accident. That I must have hit my head when I jumped into the water. They agree that I seemed unhappy, not just that night, but in general, and that my relationship with my parents, who expected me to excel in everything, was strained. Perhaps the pressure had finally got to her. It's all unsatisfying, of course. Unsatisfying for the local magazine whose updates eventually dry up. Unsatisfying for the police, left with yet another unsolved case on their desk. Unsatisfying for my parents who, decades later, will say in an interview that not a day goes by that they don't think of their little girl. Maybe a classmate will weave my name into a college essay, a shallow reflection on how fragile life is. Maybe I'll become a footnote in a true crime podcast, my existence stitched together from speculation. Or maybe Netflix will stretch my death into a gripping miniseries, my body hauled from the water in the first 3 minutes before the real drama begins. Or maybe I'll vanish completely, like the countless other girls whose stories are swallowed by silence. Because in the end, I am nothing more than another dead girl in the water,